shot in a single incident. And that was just hours after the police superintendent announced his plan to roll out a new strategy that'll help address crime on the city's south and west sides. Now, that particular shooting we just told you about happened on 92nd Place near Langley in the city's Burnside neighborhood. Police telling us 3 men and 2 women were hit by bullets on a front porch. The shooter rolling by in a white vehicle around 6:15 Monday night. A 22-year-old man died after being shot in the back. The 4 survivors taken to various hospitals, one now in critical condition. Now, just hours prior, Police Superintendent David Brown announced his plan to address this pervasive problem of gun violence. The goal of his community safety teams, or CST, is to build relationships with the residents that they serve by engaging in peace marches, prayer circles, food drives, and other community events. CST will be responsible for policing crime, but it's all secondary to building with residents. There was also the creation of the Critical Incident Response Team that consists of 250 officers focused on large scale events and demonstrations across the city, as well as crime hotspots downtown. Now, these new teams were in place this past weekend when the superintendent described the progress as tenuous. There were 3 murders, 51 shooting victims, then compared to the weekends prior when there were 12, 8, and 17 murders, the highest totaling on 4th of July weekend. The superintendent says he's working to address the department's oversights.
The top responsibility they have is interacting with the community in a positive way. You likely would get tips from the community if you are able to engage in positive interactions first about the violent crime that's happening. And so it's clear to me that community policing comes first for the CST, and then they are much more effective with addressing violent crime in the community.
So community leaders have also said a big problem with fixing the problem, I should say, is the witness protection program in Cook County. So several pastors will be gathering outside of Kim Fox's office at 10 o'clock this morning, putting pressure on the state's attorney to address the county's witness protection program. Reporting live from CPD headquarters, Courtney Gooseman. Yeah, so Robert, we learned about those charges yesterday. A West Side man now charged with murder, the murder of a 7-year-old girl who was shot to death on the 4th of July. But this case is far from over. Detectives still have some work to do because they have to catch up with this man's 3 accomplices. Now, 33-year-old Reginald Merrill, he is now charged with first-degree murder in the death of 7-year-old Natalie Wallace. Natalie was shot and killed on the 4th as she played outside at a family barbecue in the 100 block of North Latrobe in Austin. Now, the little girl was hit in the forehead. Police say Merrill was the driver of a white vehicle which had several men inside. That vehicle pulled up to the home in front of where Natalie was playing. Those men hopped out and opened fire. Her grandmother says the 7-year-old had only been outside just a few minutes before she was hit by gunfire. A 32-year-old man was also shot. Police managed to track that white vehicle and they found Merrill inside. The West Sider was brought in for questioning and charged, also hit with aggravated battery for discharging a firearm. Police say this shooting was gang-related in retaliation for another shooting from several weeks ago, and Natalie was an unintended target. We've been in touch with Natalie's parents since those charges came down, and they want the other men to be arrested and charged. Her mother just arrived here minutes ago by bus from Memphis on Greyhound, and she tells me she plans to take her other 3 children back with her out of Chicago because it's just not safe here.
I'm feeling happy and scared at the same time because my daughter is gone.
They should be turning themselves in, and everybody in the community should be walking them in there.
So Merrill is due in bond court later on this afternoon. Reporting live, Courtney Gooseman, WGN News.
While announcing that surge in federal law enforcement agents today, the president focused on several recent victims of violence in our city.
WGN's Rob State is here now with that part of the story. Rob.
Yeah, today, guys, I spoke with the sister of a 13-year-old girl that was killed back in June, and she says not a day goes by that she doesn't think about her sister. Now, she said that sometimes she even has dreams about her sister, but wakes up crying because she isn't there. It's a pain she doesn't want anyone to have to experience, but night after night, another victim, another child.
A 13-year-old girl was killed when a stray bullet came through the window of her home and hit her in the neck in the presence of her family. On Independence Day, 14-year-old Vernado Jones Jr. was playing basketball with friends in a Chicago park when he was senselessly killed in a massacre that left 8 people dead or wounded.
That 13-year-old girl is Amari Jones. President Trump acknowledges the little girl whose absence still breaks her family's heart.
For her to be 13, I think that's what hurts the most. She have not even lived life. If I would have asked my sister today what is life, she couldn't define it. Now that she's gone, you can ask me what's life, and I can't define it.
Her sister Mercedes Jones, still with no closure, at times feeling hopeless every time she hears another person, a child, shot in the streets of Chicago.
What have we come to as a whole? What would all this killing?
Send more than 200 federal agents to fight crime doesn't sit right with some. But when you ask her if she has concerns,
Nope. After what happened to my sister, not one. Nope. Not at all.
community activist Pastor Ira Ackery feels the same way after he eulogized Jones' funeral. He says something has to give.
Chicago is in a state of lawlessness, and we need some kind of help.
And until that happens, he fears more innocent lives will be taken. More families will have to suffer with nothing but memories of what was and what could have been. Like Jones's baby sister, who was supposed to grow up and become a lawyer.
If she loved you, no matter what situation you were in, she's going to fight for you. Like if someone did something to you, or whatever the case may be, and she knew you were right, she would stand up for you.
And Mercedes told me that she will still continue to speak out against gun violence. She feels it's what her sister would want her to do. But again, that pain, night after night, seeing this on the news over and over again, she says it's a reminder of how her sister lost her life.
Such a shame.
Well, it looks like President Trump is following through on his word to send federal agents to crack down on Chicago's violence.
It's a move Mayor Lightfoot strongly opposes. WJ's Mike Lowe reports from Federal Plaza.
Donald Trump was a master.
Protesters gathered at Federal Plaza in downtown Chicago
And we are losing right now.
to demonstrate against the Trump administration's plan to send 150 or more federal agents to the city to crack down on violent crime.
We want to send a message to the Trump administration that continued harassment of peaceful protesters has to stop.
I don't do politics. I have enough top-level violent crime, mob action on my plate.
Facing criticism after another violent weekend, Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown sidestepped questions about federal help, only generally agreeing to assistance.
So we'll take any and all help.
They're all Democrats.
For weeks, the president has been using violent crime as a political wedge issue.
We're in Chicago. 68 people were shot and 18 died last week. We're not going to put up with that.
The president of the police union here in Chicago wrote a formal request to the president asking for federal help. He wrote to the president that Chicago was in a state of chaos on a regular basis. He called Mayor Lori Lightfoot a complete failure who is either unwilling or unable to maintain law and order. Today, the mayor responded.
We don't need federal agents without any insignia taking people off the street and holding them, I think, unlawful. That's not what we need.
The situation in Portland has raised serious questions about whether the Department of Homeland Security, an agency created to deal with national security threats, should be used against American citizens, especially when elected local leaders oppose their presence.
We're very concerned about the lawfulness of this.
Colleen Connell is the executive director of the ACLU of Illinois.
The federal government does not really have authority to come in as an occupying force.
As far as details about the potential deployment of federal agents to Chicago, the Department of Homeland Security would only say they do not comment on potential operations. But clearly here in Federal Plaza, protesters are questioning whether this is more about politics than it is about public safety.
Violence continues to rage across parts of the city this summer. Community members continue to demand change.
WGN Shannon Halligan is live at police headquarters with what they say needs to be done to address the violence. Shannon.
Yeah, over the last 2 months, on average, nearly 19 people are shot a day in Chicago. That's according to analysis by the Chicago Sun-Times. It's something people in the community says needs to change.
What happened here 2 days ago was a tragedy that should not have occurred. And it's something that happens perpetually in our community. And we're done. We're tired.
Gathered outside the Auburn Gresham Funeral Home where 15 people were shot Tuesday, community members and activists called for systematic change in Chicago.
We're here because we want to hold people accountable, right? We want to hold the systems that we believe created this madness accountable.
Police said the mass shooting outside the funeral home was an act of gang retaliation, but members of the Black Community Collaborative said gang violence and shootings are the result of a broken system.
It is unacceptable that you close our schools. It is unacceptable that you displace our residents in CHA and not work with them to make sure they have sound housing. What do you expect is going to happen when you do that to our community?
And they say everyone suffers, but these community members say that children are being hurt the most.
2 weeks, 10 kids shot, nobody marched, nobody rioted, nobody looted. I'm not saying loot, but nothing was done. That is not okay.
Yesterday, President Trump announced the addition of federal resources coming to the city in an effort to curb this ongoing violence. And people from this group say that they will welcome it if it can help police solve unsolved murders that continue to go unsolved. Reporting live at 35th and Michigan, Shannon Halligan, WGN News.
Shannon, thank you.